Welcome to Room for Rent. We have Kayla Esmond today here, comedian and all around badass.
Thank
Hi,
you.
Kayla.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me. I'm
How
super
are
excited
you?
to be here.
Yes, we're so excited to have you. The reason I wanted to have you on the pod is obviously because I haven't seen you in forever and I love you.
I know. I've missed you. I've been thinking about you lately.
You were engaging with all of the posts that I was doing about the pod. So I was like, she at least knows I have a podcast. Chances are she knows what it's about.
I am a fan.
Which is great. A lot of somebody came up to me the other day and was like, "Hey Maria, can I be on your podcast?" And I was like, "I mean, probably. I know this person. We'll
get
we're
to you
cool."
eventually.
Yeah. And then I was like, "Do you know what the podcast is about?" And she was like, "No." And I was like, "So you just want to be on a podcast? You don't know what it's about? What is it? What if it's about how I kill you at the end of the podcast?
Right.
It's just it could be anything." And she was like, "I just
it's
want to be
about
on
the fact
it."
that your room is about to be for rent after I murder you on my podcast.
Yeah. It made me want to kind of murder.
No,
this
I've been
person,
watching the reels and you have so many comics on that I'm fans of and
Oh,
are friends
good.
with,
Yeah, that's good.
And of course, I always enjoy your stuff. And like you said, I hadn't seen you in a while. I've been missing you. We've been I
know.
feel like we've been Scooby doing it around LA comedy. We've just been I'm on a mic at one side of the city and you're on the other side of the city.
Yeah. Well, I'm on the west side and you're Hollywood Valley. Whatever.
I'm in mid city now.
Oh.
But I end up being in the valley a lot because I work up there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I really haven't seen you. You got that job at Olive Garden, and then I never saw you again. I was
working
swallowed by the breadsticks
so much. I was working so much when I was bartending at Olive Garden. I still bartend one day a week there.
Oh.
Just one night a week.
Yeah.
But I mostly teach acting and work as a producer for a podcasting and social media company now. And that's mostly from home, so that gives me a lot more flexibility. So even though I'm working more hours than I was, I have more free time than I did.
Yeah. I feel like it's conflict of interest for you to be here.
Absolutely. Well, I'm here doing research.
Sure.
I'm on the clock right now.
We all do our own research
That's right.
these days.
I'm getting paid minimum wage right now. No.
Yeah, I wish I could pay people to be on this podcast. That'd be amazing.
They pay me $4 more than minimum wage. So
I mean, it's better than nothing. Okay?
Absolutely. I'm happy to have it. I appreciate it.
Unemployed is not the business. So, well, thanks for being on. I know you have some crazy roommate stories. I also know you're just don't take this the wrong way. You're a crazy girl. You have crazy stories. Your stand-up makes people mad in a good way. She's a very smart stand-up comedian and so I can't wait to hear the stories. We haven't talked about the stories ahead of time. No. I have no idea what you're gonna say. This is a real reaction live.
Well, and I was going through and when I was preparing for the podcast, because I'm competitive and I was I'm gonna win the podcast. So I was I'm gonna be the best. And I didn't think about just how many wild roommate stories I have, and some of them are happenstance. A lot of them are just because I engaged in messy behavior. Mm-hmm. But I've got a lot. I was going through the list. I almost had to make a spreadsheet because I've had a lot of roommates and go through and be what are the stories with everyone? And I've had roommates that I absolutely adored and roommates that I despised and roommates I was sleeping with.
My goodness.
I've run the gambit.
You make a spreadsheet for roommates and people you have sex with. I make a spreadsheet for my finances.
I should make a spreadsheet for the people I had sex with, but it would mostly be sad monikers of just dude in van who had really spicy cocaine.
Yeah, I also feel you don't find type A whores very often, people are not that.
No.
People who are sleeping around are not making spreadsheets. If you are, you're a psychopath.
Absolutely.
So never make a spreadsheet of the people that you
never meet.
sleep with. No, not at all. I mean, oh my God. Well, so let's get into it. So do you want to start from your youngest point of roommate, or do you want to start oldest and go back? A lot of people start with youngest and move forward. We can
go chronologically.
Yeah.
We can go chronologically. I can also work backwards. I've had roommates my entire adult life. I've never been able to live, I've never been able to afford to just live on my own.
Right.
So the first roommate that I had was my dorm mate in college, and that was a mess because she needed accommodations that her mom didn't tell the university about.
Like what?
And she I don't know exactly like what she needed. It's not like her and I ever necessarily got into it with each other. But she was special needs and she needed certain accommodations to like help with everyday life and like cleaning up and stuff. And that's totally fair. And she deserved that. But her parents didn't communicate that to the university. So her mom was always texting me being like, hey, can you help her go clean this up? And I'm like, no, I'm 18. That's not really my responsibility. And she's like, she needs help. And I'm like, I have class.
Yeah, you're like, I signed up to be a college student who gets wasted, not a caretaker.
Yeah, I was like, I can't be a caretaker. And I'm just not qualified. You know, I have no clue what people need.
What kind of... So you didn't know her going
we didn't know each other
school.
going in.
I had a roommate like that too, but she was a recovering alcoholic at 18. So there was a completely different set of special needs.
She was addicted to Glee, and we bonded over that.
What were her special needs?
I genuinely don't know.
She wasn't in a wheelchair.
No, she wasn't in a wheelchair. It was, she had different kinds of handicaps. Like, she wasn't physically handicapped. She needed help with like care tasks. And I wasn't particularly good at taking care of myself at that point.
Yeah.
I was very messy. Like, she needed help with being able to like clean and keep things organized. And for some reason, her mom thought I was going to help her organize her class schedules and stuff. And I was like, no.
But that sounds like a physical handicap. Like if she needed help cleaning and...
Sure.
Like, was she incapable of physically doing those things, or
I think
mentally
she was physically capable? It was a mental mental handicap, and she was very capable in a lot of ways. She just needed a caretaker. She needed a caretaker. She deserved to have some help. You know, she.
Where did you go to college?
I went to a private Baptist university, and that was part of the problem. Is
interesting.
If you're willing to give them money, you know, they'll set you up for failure and take your money.
Yeah.
They don't have to abide by the same standards that like a public university would. So a state university, they're going to have to provide you with certain accommodations, but a private university is more than happy to set somebody up for failure.
And I assume it was kind of a small school.
It was a very small school.
So
it was smaller than my high school.
I would think they also have a pretty good like operations, admin, communications department, which like, why were they not reaching out to you being like, hey, we have a special needs person that is looking for a roommate. We want to give you a heads up that this is the case. Not because there's any sort of judgment, just like that's additional responsibility for you to take on, even if that person had a caretaker.
Right.
Like that's additional adjustment. Like going to college is already an adjustment.
I would have generally been more than happy to like make accommodations that I could that were within my control. Like there was a lot of stuff that just wasn't within my control to be able to do. But if, you know, I'd had a conversation with, say, an RA or somebody who wanted to like be like, hey, here's what you can do to help. But like, again, I was given no guidance in any of this.
Yeah.
I'm just getting weird texts from her mom randomly.
Did it stress you out? Were you like worried about coming home at night and just being like, I don't know what to do?
I would stay the night at friends' apartments. Just because it was a lot of pressure, and it also like I wanted to be able to help, but I had no, like, you feel so old when you're 18. You're like, I'm an adult. I know how to handle things. I teach kids, and one of the 13-year-olds in my class, he's like the oldest kid in this particular scene study class. Some of the 11-year-olds were like running around, and he looked at me and did this deep sigh. He was like, they have so much energy at that age, don't they? They make me feel so old. And I was like, yeah, buddy, do they? Like, that was me at 18. It's like, oh, they have so much energy. So, like, you feel like you're an adult and you feel like you're failing in this sense. Like, at the time, I felt like I was failing. I felt like I was failing my roommate. And I wanted to be able to do more.
Especially if you're a person, you like to achieve your competitive, like, you probably wanted to win the living situation.
Yeah, we're going to win the living situation. We're going to solve this. I'm very much a problem solver. I'm a planner. Like, I like to, okay, plan A doesn't work. Let's go to plan B.
Right.
But I wasn't equipped, you know, at this point in my life, I would probably be able to handle that situation a lot better. But that was an unfair situation to put on two 18-year-olds and just like throw us into a dorm and be like, go figure it out. Because I was also struggling. Like, I didn't know that I had like depression and CPTSD and all this stuff at the time. So I was also having to figure out my own like mental health stuff and how to exist as an adult and how to clean up after myself. 100%. So it was very much like looking back on it, at the time I felt like I had failed her, and looking back on it, I'm like, no. All of the adults around us failed us and put us into an unwinnable situation. But we ended up moving out, and I got my own dorm for about 3 weeks or something. I had my own room at the end of a semester, and then my next roommate, she was chill in the sense that I rarely saw her, but I loved that. We hardly ever saw each other. We had opposite schedules. Every now and then, our schedules in the dorm would randomly collide when she was having FaceTime sex with her overseas boyfriend.
Oh, no.
And that was always interesting. It'd be like, oh, hey, hi, I just need to grab some books for class. You know what? You don't have to move anything.
Oh,
We're
my
just...
God.
Yeah.
Would she get embarrassed of the fact? Like, you walk in, is she, like, moaning?
She was... The 2 times, it was the first time she tried more to hide it. Like, she was under a sheet. The second time, she didn't even, like, acknowledge that I was there. And I didn't acknowledge that I was there either. I just, like, came in. And you know
Was she naked? Because I feel like the part of FaceTime sex, if you're going to have it.
If you're going to have it over FaceTime,
they need to be able to see you.
She
right?
was.
Like, so if you're under a sheet, it's like, well, what's the point of
She
being
was naked, but we were also, that was later in the semester. So I think, like, she'd just become comfortable with the fact that we would sometimes be naked.
Bro, I would
in
never
the
be
dorm.
comfortable with that. Ever. Like, I wouldn't be comfortable with FaceTime sex, period. Like, if I have a long distance relationship, I don't know about that. But oh, no.
In all fairness, it was a little bit of karma on my part because I did...
You had FaceTime sex first?
No, I had sex. I've never had FaceTime sex. It seems sad. Something about like the lag.
Seems like a sad way to run your battery down.
Absolutely.
You know, like you could be on TikTok.
All that Zoom sex during the pandemic was just
no.
so
no.
But I got completely off track.
So
it was
sex.
probably karma because I that same semester I'd had sex with my boyfriend at the time in the bottom bunk of his bed while his roommate was sleeping, probably awake above us. So, you know, it was wild time. And I mean, this university that I went to, this college, it's out in the middle of nowhere in Arkansas.
Okay.
You had to drive 45 minutes to get to the nearest movie theater.
Lord have mercy.
Yes, there's nothing to do but
I already sound like I'm from Arkansas. You say
I know.
Arkansas one, I'm like, Lord have mercy.
Oh my God, bless your heart. That
I can pick up a southern accent so quick.
If I talk to my family, it's back in a second.
Oh, I'm sure.
I mean, it comes and goes, especially like when I'm mad, my
I'm sure.
accent gets real thick.
I get a southern accent when I get mad. I'm from Oregon, which is the Midwest of the West Coast.
It's a good accent to slip into. It's very effective.
It is. It feels good. Like it really sits in your mouth. Okay, wait. So you had sex with your boyfriend on the lower bunk in his dorm while his roommate was sleeping.
Yes. Nowhere else to have
Here's
sex.
the difference, though. Unless you have a very sensitive guy, and I don't mean sensitive in a bad way, I don't think guys care if they hear their buddies having sex. Like, guys like to have sex with girls in the same room as their bros. They'll be like, dude, look, we're both fucking right now. Like, my parents watch this podcast. That's not anything I've ever done. But I have heard stories where they're like, yeah, bro, we were just fucking side by side. It was great. Like, women, not the same.
You know, I've had group sex before. It's cool. It's chill. There are versions of it that are better than others. Having 2 dudes in a room, they just start competing with each other, and it's not fun to be the woman there. Having multiple women offsets like any dudes that might be there. Best scenario is all women, but
how many times have you had group sex? You're saying you're like, so if you can do it this way, like Wednesdays are really good for all female group sex.
I brought my group sex spreadsheet, so
now I know you're a sociopath.
It's color coded.
You can have. Well, I can understand. A spreadsheet for group sex is probably necessary, or just like a bubble map. You know, what is that called? Where it's like,
oh yeah,
you know, like this is the nucleus, and then you go off here and do that. That I understand.
What those are when my boss sends them to me. I'm like, this is looking good. Yeah, I absolutely understand why you sent me these bubbles.
Yeah, you're like, I don't need to use this for my group sex brainstorm.
Thanks so much. This is gonna help me out in tracking my group sex.
Oh my God,
it's just a few times. It was always like, I don't think it hasn't happened in
and you
so many
weren't at
years.
Burning Man.
I was not at Burning
Yeah.
Man. I mean, you know, a Baptist university in the middle of Arkansas might as well be Burning Man for all the drugs and sex you're having.
Oh my God.
There's just nothing else to do.
My eyes are wide open right now. I went to a state school. I never heard of group sex. I have rarely heard of cocaine use. Wow. The more you love Jesus, the more doors open for you. I think is what you're
and
saying.
that door is your butthole.
Yeah, I was going to say, and doors meaning asshole. This is taking a turn. We're supposed to be talking about roommates, and now it's a Call Her Daddy episode.
You know,
Andrew Tate coming soon. No,
oh, Jesus. I hope he never comes again.
well, his hairline is trying to come back, which is, wow.
An unwinnable battle.
Well, he's trying.
So those are the first 2 roommates.
Yeah. Wait, so I want to go back, though, for a second to the handicapped gal, because I want to know if there were any specific instances where her mom is like texting you specific things to do and you're just like, I can't do this. And then are you trying to be polite to the mom? Like, okay, I'll try to help your child, like your prized possession, you know, your child. But then you're like, I don't know how to fucking help
I was
this girl.
really polite for the first few weeks when she was like, hey, can you help her get this set up? It was often like, can you help her clean? Can you help her with her homework? And like with the cleaning, I was like, yeah, we can clean together. Like we can do a cleaning day. And then with the homework, I was like, well, they have labs for this, like they're, you know, study labs and stuff that she might try out. So I was like trying to give helpful suggestions and like, oh, here's someone who can help you with that. Or, you know, sure. So I was trying to find solutions for a long time. And then I just stopped responding for a while. And then she got upset with me and was like, hey, you need to respond to me. This is inappropriate.
You're like, what?
Oh, this is a grown
Go
adult.
talk to the university.
I know.
Oh
This is a grown adult like messaging me this.
Wow.
And again, one of those things where at the time you're like, oh, this is an adult messaging an adult. And then you're 31, you look at it and you're like, that was inappropriate for her to text me at all.
Oh, 100%.
But that was when I went to the dorm mother and I was like, hey, I need to move rooms. This has gotten out of hand.
Was this person also from Arkansas?
Yes, she was from Arkansas.
So,
yeah.
like, I feel like culturally, like, you're like, okay, at least they're from like places that you're familiar with. I don't know. I feel like sometimes that could help.
You know, and I
stick
actually,
up for yourself.
I didn't grow up in Arkansas. I grew up in Texas. So when I was out there, I was like, this was the first time I was living 6 hours away from my family. Yeah, I didn't know the area at all. So I wasn't particularly helpful in that.
So you never went to the university to be like, hey, I'm in a living situation. You just went to like the person in charge of the dorm and said, I need a new roommate. Because I think knowing me, and I feel like we're a little similar, I would have marched into like the admin office and been like, I don't know how you guys do things here, but like this has to change. Just because I would have been stressed out.
That
like,
was
that
not,
I couldn't help this person.
Yeah. That was not me at that point. I wasn't put together enough to be able to advocate for myself in that way and to be able to advocate for other people in that way. The only thing I knew to do, and I'd also been dismissed kind of when I brought it up to RAs. And the other thing to remember,
sucks.
It
sucks.
But the other thing to remember is it being a private Baptist university in 2010, you were always in danger every single time you interacted with upper level administration because you signed morality agreements, and sometimes they would know that you'd done something like drink alcohol or have premarital sex or something like that, because you signed a contract that said you would never drink alcohol, you would never have premarital sex, all of this stuff. And they had a habit, and gay sex, you could get kicked out for being gay. And that was a big one that was...
This is 2010?
2010, yeah.
That was around the time gay marriage was made legal, though.
2015.
Oh, it wasn't until 2015?
2015, yeah.
Oh. It feels like it's been interesting.
It feels like it's been longer, but I remember the very specific day because I was shooting God's Not Dead 2. I was on set for God's Not Dead 2 the day gay marriage became legal, and we were shooting at the courthouse in Arkansas.
Oh, shit.
And it was not legal until that day. And they kept having to pause recording. It really was.
Yeah.
Me and the makeup artist that was working on me, like when the news came in, we cried and hugged. And they kept having to pause recording because like uproarious applause would come from downstairs whenever somebody got married. And it was very cathartic to watch this Christian propaganda movie that I did admittedly participate in. I still get residuals. I got a residual check from them the other day. I bought weed with it. And
that's the best revenge.
Thank you, Christians.
Yeah.
Oh, God's Not Dead 2 is a Christian propaganda movie, by the way.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've never heard of it. But
Most people haven't.
Yeah.
It's a Christian propaganda movie.
It's a sequel.
Yes, to the God's Not
Even
Dead.
worse. Yeah.
God's Not Dead 3 Die Hard is going to be out.
Yeah. And then
Die
the
Hard with a
Stallone
Vengeance.
version will be coming out at some point, I'm sure. And then the Schwarzenegger version, and then.
But it was very cathartic to watch this Christian propaganda movie be like paused for applause every time a gay
sure.
Did
Did you have any gay friends that got kicked out of the school, like that they found out about?
We were very, very careful.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of gay friends. I was like queer. I was sleeping with women when I was there. I was queer. No more. No. They fixed me. No.
Yeah.
No. I was sleeping with women myself, and we had to be very, very careful. You'd be very secretive. Not so much among the theater people. You could be a lot more open with the theater people. But it did cause some stress when you're like, when I would hook up with a girl at a party, we'd both be like, all right, you can't tell anybody.
Yeah.
There are upsides to that. You get to sleep around a lot more because people don't know that you've hooked up with their friends. But
I mean, I think that's the move anyway, is like you just sleep around and don't tell people shit. And then like, it's amazing.
It's funny. Sleeping around and not telling people, it was in that instance the right thing to do.
Yeah, I love it.
It's wrong. It's very wrong to out somebody at like, their private Baptist university.
Were there ever like STD
But people
breakouts?
did get kicked out. People did get kicked out for being gay in other classes, not necessarily my friends.
That would make me protest.
As
a good white person that I am, I would protest.
It did cause a lot of friction. It was a big it was a big thing.
That's a lot. See, I've never been to a private school. Like I've always been, my parents were big on public school. So like if I had gone to a private school, I would have wreaked so much havoc because things don't make sense at private schools.
Yeah.
Like I remember the Jesuit high school in Oregon that like I knew some people went there. And their detentions were called jugs.
Oh.
Do you know what it stands for?
No.
Justice under God.
Ew.
And so, like, if you wore it was awful. The fact that I remember it, too, like, hurts me a little. And so they would be like, oh, yeah, I got a jug today. And I'm like, for what? And it would be like if they showed their collarbones or, like, if their skirt was too short. Because your skirt had to come down to your knees. Like, it's very almost Mormon-like. And then I was like, okay, so if you get a jug, what do you have to do? And they're like, you have to, like, wash the tables after lunch, which in high school is that's like the lowest level thing you could possibly do as a high school student who's trying to like maintain popularity. But yeah,
Children
justice under God.
Ugh.
It is almost worse than the God is dead title or whatever. God's not dead. It's
God's not
horrible.
dead, yeah.
Okay, so I forget where we were. We've
gone through our first two. So we've gone through our first two roommates. Then I moved in with one of my favorite roommates. She was fantastic. She's so cool. She's out crushing it. She's got her master's degree in psychology.
Was this in college also?
This was also in college. She was my roommate the last 3 years of college.
Okay.
So she was my roommate sophomore year to senior year, and she's just the best.
That's great consistency.
Yeah,
I had a different roommate every year, and then my last year I just lived alone. I was like, you know what, fuck these bitches. You need a break.
We just vibed so well, and like she had a theater minor, so we like understood each other enough, but we also weren't in the same classes.
Right.
But it was like the perfect balance, and she was just a super cool person. She was not. We were both on the same level of like not super Christian-y. We both had rougher childhoods than a lot of the other people at the school. So like we bonded over that.
That's nice.
She was wonderful. She was just like a delight to live with the whole time. I'm sure that she's on a podcast somewhere telling horror stories about living with me. But
I doubt it. Are you guys are still friends?
We're still friends.
I doubt it.
No, she's great.
It's probably not anything you don't already know about yourself. That's what I chalk it up to, is like, if I say something about somebody in a podcast and I haven't said it to your face, you should already know it about yourself. Right. Like, I'm not digging up any crazy gossip.
Assuming you're self-aware enough. No.
Yeah. Is she married with kids? Where
she's not married.
What's the deal?
She's out there providing fantastic mental health care to people.
That's nice. That's wonderful.
She was one of those roommates, like, we made out a few times at parties and stuff, and
she was just chill. What do you mean?
Chill. She was just super chill. We'd drink together, and she was a little more studious than I was, but we had a great time.
That's
She was
awesome.
She was excellent. I did spend a little bit of that time. We lived in an apartment together our last year, and that was excellent. We had a balcony where we'd go out and we'd rip a gravity bong, which is where you take a like 2-liter and you empty it out and you put it in a bucket of water and like you put the weed in the top and and it makes this big giant and we'd go out there and we just rip fat bong rips.
And weed
on
is
our
very
patio.
much illegal in Arkansas.
Very illegal.
Still probably.
Will get us kicked out. Yeah, they have very strict medicinal marijuana laws now, and they only got those like a year or two ago. But we go and we just like take fat bong rips, and then 3/4 of the way into the year, we realized our balcony. So we were in a upper level literary class together. I'm pretty sure it was a Milton class, a John Milton class. And our professor, who we loved, would take the class towards the end, and he'd make dinner for everybody, and he'd have you over to his house.
Of course he would.
It was awesome. It was great.
I'm sure it was great. Was he single?
No, he had a lovely
is he
wife.
trolling for a young wife? Like, what's going on?
He's like 4'9", and so like he was so appropriate.
So tiny.
I went out of my way to take his classes. Shout out Dr. Curlin. He's fantastic.
Whose shoulders did he sit on while he taught is what I want to know. Like, how did he reach the chalkboard?
Mine, they're very broad.
Yeah,
they're good
that's why I
shoulders.
asked. Yeah. Oh my God.
But we went to his house so he was going to read Paradise Lost. He was reading Paradise Lost to us. And we go to his house and we look up through his window. He lives really close to us. And we look and we see from his kitchen, he has a direct view of where we stand and take bong rips all day.
It was that close?
It was that close.
Oh my God.
He was around the corner from us, and we didn't realize till we went to his house, and it didn't occur to us until we were like standing in his kitchen. We look up and we're like, oh, Dr. Curlin has seen us take bong rips on our patio. There's no way.
And he never asked you to join in?
No, he never asked to join in, but he also never ratted us out.
I mean, a 2-liter bottle is also the size of a 4'9" man. So if he did join in, you might have ended him.
He takes that big old rib and he just floats off into space.
Short kings are also known as 2 liters. Yeah, that's the way it goes.
Short kings are 2 liters. I love that.
You got a good riff.
That's
off.
merch.
Yeah.
That's merch right there.
Yeah. Oh my God.
You gotta take that to the bank.
Oh man, he never asked to join in. See, I feel like professors that have people over to their house like make dinner and shit like that, like they're the ones that are like, so who has the weed, or like who has the what's going on, like
good
they want to
Christian
be
man
in with the youngsters,
right?
Good. Yeah.
No, he was so not the type of person trying to be in with the youngsters. Like he was the classic professor, like bald head, glasses, patches on the tweed jacket. Like,
wow.
He's the person that you want teaching you a Milton class and a Shakespeare class and stuff. He's great.
It's funny. I agree with you. I feel like there's so many teachers now that are just trying to be TikTok cool. Like not necessarily like college teachers, but like younger teachers. Like there's that one guy that's viral that does the dances and stuff. And he like baits his class and then does the dance. And I'm like, dude, these kids need to learn grammar before it's too late. Like stop TikToking.
I'm not
teach
trying
them
to
how to do math. What's going on?
I'm not trying to be like cool when I teach.
Yeah.
But I will sometimes like quote TikTok memes at the kids.
Oh.
Usually they love it, but nothing hurts worse than when you're like doing a meme that you think is going to play with the kids. Like the other day I was like, meme you do it for you. Didn't I do it? I thought this was a universal meme, TikTok meme. Nope, they had no clue what I was talking about.
I have no clue what you're talking about.
I'm on a different side of TikTok than the kids, I found out.
And I can't unhear whatever noise you just made. That was do you have that bong rip thing nearby? I whatever plane.
I can make a bong right now if you need it.
No, I don't smoke weed, so that would kill me.
We'll smoke. You got some coffee? We can bong rips of coffee.
No, I don't. Weed makes me sad. I don't. It makes me really, really edible. Like I've tried an edible one time. It was really sad the next day. Really? One time I smoked weed and I think I hallucinated, which you're not supposed to do. Like I smoked it. It wasn't like edibles. People hallucinate, but weed. I don't think you're supposed to do that.
That is wild.
I don't like it. And then one time, somebody gave me something. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna smoke this or whatever. And I was with my friend, and we were sitting watching TV in my bed, and I just stared at the wall next to the TV for like an hour and a half. I was like, I understand that this is like the thing that happens that everybody makes, like the stereotypical thing that happens. I was like, I don't like this. Like, I don't want to stare at the wall. Like, I'm too productive of a person. Like, I'm not really a type A, but I like having control of my mind.
You know, I really like weed. I love weed.
Yeah.
I've been smoking a lot of weed for a long time, but like, it's one of those things, like, if it doesn't vibe for you, I'm not one of those people that like everybody just smoke weed. It's like, I like weed because it calms me down a little bit, and I tend to have a bit of a manic edge. Yeah. And it kind of takes that edge off for me, but it's not for everyone.
I don't think I have.
The less you smoke, the more I can.
Yeah, I don't have that thing where people need to calm down. I don't think, and if I do, I think I put it into other stuff. Yeah, that's good. It is. I mean, it's great. Neither of my parents have ever smoked weed.
Really?
Which is wild. Like,
see, my father did meth, so.
Oh, Jesus.
But he says he's allergic to marijuana. And I'm like, all right.
Yeah, because you've got so many other chemicals in your body. Right. That the weed's like, I can't be in here. I can't breathe, man.
We're in here. I was the first person to ever offer my mom weed.
I mean, I've definitely offered to like I've said to my mom for like, let's just smoke weed tonight, see what happens. And she's like, no. I'm like, it's probably for the better.
I was like, you want to hit this joint? And she was like, no, but thank you for offering. She was like, you're the first person that's ever offered me drugs. And I was like, Dad never offered you drugs? That's so selfish. He was just hoarding the meth their whole marriage. That's,
oh my God.
So rude. No wonder they got divorced.
Yeah. Well, meth, great for marriage.
Okay. So roommates.
Yeah.
So, all right. So I've graduated. I lived briefly with my boyfriend at the time. We lived together in this like
in Arkansas.
We had this like cinder block apartment that cost like $200 a month. It was amazing. It was a dog shit apartment, but I would move back in tomorrow for $200.
And it's probably only $250 now. Like,
I know, and it was one bedroom. Wow. It's not even a studio. It was like a 1-bedroom apartment
with a full kitchen,
in-unit
laundry,
living room. Did we have laundry? I don't think we had laundry. I don't think so.
Because that would be amazing.
I think I had to go back to my dorm. I think I would go and take our laundry back to my dorm. Cause like I kind of half lived with him, half lived in the dorm. I still had to have a dorm because you weren't allowed to, like, if I told the university that I wasn't going to be living on campus because I was going to go live with my boyfriend, they would have kicked me out.
Why? Because you're not supposed to be living
can't have premarital sex.
But like you could live with a man and not be sleeping with him. Impossible. But you could say that, right? Like
they wouldn't have bought it.
If you had a brother and you and your brother went to the same school and you lived together, would they be okay with that? Or what's the incest like down there?
That I don't. The incest is great in Arkansas. It's
technically
it's only actually incest if it's in Arkansas. If it comes from the Arkansas region, otherwise it's just sparkling grossness.
Wait, what?
This is a champagne joke. Is this not playing?
Oh
man, I feel like I just did a TikTok sound that my kids didn't know in class. I was like, wow, this bartender joke is really gonna fly.
No, I wasn't. No, because I was taking it. So I was like, wait, let's learn about incest in Arkansas. I don't know. No,
there's incest everywhere.
Right here.
It's in your backyard.
Right here.
Sneaking up on you.
No, I'm just kidding. Wouldn't that be weird if we found out we were related? That happens a lot.
Really?
Yeah.
I'd be surprised if we were related because I feel like we're from, like, my family has your family ever lived in the South?
No.
My family's been in the South for a real long time.
I think the farthest south we've gone is Omaha, which is not south at all.
I think our families have probably been on opposite ends.
Where's your family from?
My family, like my immediate family or like my lineage?
Yeah, your lineage. Whatever the correct terminology is these days.
I'm not sure exactly. I assume England because my family was here before the United States was formed.
Oh, wow.
We go back to like pre-revolution.
Jesus.
So, yeah, and we've been white the whole time. So, we've done some fucked up shit out here.
Yeah. Do you know what side of the Civil War you were on?
My family was on the Confederate side of the Civil War.
Wow.
And I would...
you know that for a fact?
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yes, I do. Actually, I got into it with one of my grandparents one time because of they were like, well, some of them were just like they were just defending what they thought was right, and I was like, what did they think was right, Papa? What they think? What were they thinking? What they think was right? What were they defending that? Just what was it? What was the stuff, Papa?
Oh my God.
Which stuff specifically? Like, because I'm always very comfortable being like my ancestors were.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do about it.
Pieces of shit. What
are you gonna do?
They're pieces of shit. I had no control, but they were pieces of shit. I'm happy to admit that. I'm not here to defend any of those losers. Like, what do they do for me other than pass down alcoholism and depression? These fucking nerds.
Which, if you're Confederate, sounds about right. Well, anyways, that was off track, but that's very interesting. Yes. So you were trying to live with a man secretly, basically.
Yes, I secretly half lived with a man. We broke up. While I was in college, and then I had another boyfriend that would stay over at my apartment a bunch, but we never quite lived together. And then after college, I ended up moving in with a friend of mine who I had slept with on and off.
Man or woman?
Man.
Okay.
I had slept with him on and off. Oh, speaking of that, here's my roommate that I had all through college. Or for most of college, whom I adored. We made out a few times at parties. We never slept together. We made out a few times at parties, and I got called into the dean's office once, and they were like, we heard that you have been having homosexual relations. And I was like, because I absolutely had been. I had been sleeping with so many women. And I was like, oh, I'm about to get kicked out. And then he was like, with your roommate. And I was like, no. I can say honestly, I did not sleep with her. It was all over the shirt stuff, man. It stayed above the waist. No, it was. So I was able to very honestly, I mean, I would have denied it either way, but I was able to very honestly be like, no, we did not sleep together.
You're like,
kept it above board.
Girl.
Yeah.
Other girls, maybe.
With my roommate? No.
You're doing the wrong kind of research.
Right.
Your case has led you astray.
But I'd slept with him on and off during college, and he was one of my best friends, but we had a very weird relationship. Where at points he was basically we were basically dating, but we never called it that. But there were periods
my
where
specialty.
Yeah, it was such a weird relationship. It was one of those things where we kind of both grew up together, in a sense, because we were friends from the time we both got to college, when we were 18. We immediately connected that first week, and we and anytime one of us wasn't in a relationship, we were sleeping with each other.
Oh yeah, everybody has a few of those. Yeah.
And and we had this really weird friendship, and it was very complicated, and at points we were basically dating, but we never called it that.
Did either of you ever want it to become more than that? Did either person be like, hey, can we just make this official?
Not that either of us ever stated out loud. Not that either of us ever said. I think there was
I would think I would have gotten impatient if I'd been the person to want it. I would have been like, hey, this works out pretty good. We like this. Why don't we make it? And then usually the guy's always like, yeah, absolutely not. Why would you even?
I think I was wild enough at that point that I wanted the flexibility that the ambiguity brought. Because that you can get away with a lot in that ambiguity. And we did end up kind of hurting each other at different times. We were kind of sandpaper for each other. We kind of we rubbed off a lot of rough edges that the other one had. So we were kind of bumping up against each other, learning lessons together.
That's good. I mean, that's what your early 20s is.
Yeah.
For, though, so that doesn't sound awful.
Yeah, exactly. It really was it was complicated, and it was weird, and it was different. But it was never anything that there were no victims in that scenario. We were both just kind of we'd kind of hurt the other one. One of us would hurt the other one's feelings, and you'd be able to kind of tell that they were hurt, that the other person brought home somebody the other night.
That was going to be my question of if you bring somebody home, is that what would cause a tiff?
once or twice I got the feeling that he was bothered by it. I was never particularly bothered by it because I feel like I could easily be in an open relationship. I don't have a lot of like jealousy around sex.
Why do you think that is? Because that's pretty unusual. Like maybe, I know in LA everybody thinks that they're like polyamorous, but I think ultimately people try it and it doesn't work out because insecurities.
The answer, if the genuine answer is too dark for your podcast, feel free to like cut it out. But I think the honest answer is just I was molested when I was 4 years old, and that forces you at a very early age to kind of have to disconnect that.
Interesting.
So your brain to save yourself. I feel like it kind of just shut that off for me, where I don't have these really intense emotions towards sex.
I'm sorry that happened to you, by the way. Like, I don't want to seem insensitive.
Hey, no, you're good. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too, because like I feel like sometimes people go in two opposite directions, where like they never want to be touched ever again. And they're very particular and very careful about who they engage with. And then some people are like, you know what, like sex is just sex. It's not that big of a deal. Right. I'm going to do it anyway. So it's interesting. I don't know that I've ever talked to anybody that was molested that has that approach. Yeah.
I think that was just the way my brain knew how to handle it. Well, and like hypersexuality and like low sexuality, they're both things that like happen for people who are molested when they're children. I think that's just the way that my brain went with it. But I don't want to make it entirely about, it's not solely because of that. I think that has a lot to do with it because I've thought about it. I also think that I'm just kind of that person that I'm just kind of laid back about sex, that I'm very like, I've always, I was very religious, or I tried to be very religious in high school. And like, I was around that very buttoned up, prudish, like overly pure Christianity. The kind of people who are like, oh, I'm saving my first kiss for marriage, even though the Bible doesn't even tell you to do that.
Oof.
Like
too much.
They go past what the Bible asks you to do. It's insanity. And I grew up around that. So that also kind of like making that flip of like, oh, when I realized that was bad and that it was bullshit and that it was traumatizing, a bad thing to teach children, that it was a traumatizing thing for their brains. That also helped a lot. I think
you also seem like a very confident person. Like you seem like somebody, at least since I've known you, which is like, I don't know, 4 some years.
Yeah.
You just seem like somebody who isn't fazed by some of the like BS that people could get concerned with, where I don't know, because people say the same thing to me sometimes, and I don't necessarily feel like the most confident person in the world, but I think there's a lot of things that don't bother me that make me come off that way. Yeah. And you see, like, when you're like, I'm just very chill, I'm like, I'm kind of the same way. Like, I'm the kind of person that's always like, I'm not like other girls. And then people are like, that, you can't say that, like, because then you are. And I'm like, no.
Right.
I'm the version of that before, like, the, like, silly, done up girls. Like, I'm not like other girls. Like, ruined it.
You're not trying to pick me about it. You're not trying to get picked. You're just cool. It's the reality.
You know, like me, great. If you don't like me, great. Like, there's 8 billion people on the planet. Yeah. It's just like, move on.
There's definitely a lot of that. It's just like, there's not, it surprises me sometimes the things that will bother me, because so little bothers me that then when something does bother me, I'm like, oh, I wasn't prepared for that to bother me. Like, all of my exes are married except for the roommate that I was telling you about earlier. And I still kind of count him
that you lived with, the most recent one we were talking about.
And I kind of count him as an ex just because, like, even though it was never official, like, he feels like an ex. Because like when he moved out, when he was like, hey, I don't want to, like, he like had to cut off contact. He was like, this hurts and stuff. It was a very messy kind of like friend breakup that played out like a breakup. And so like he feels like an ex when I think about him. And we also had this on and off thing for like 7 years.
Yeah.
And we lived together for years, so it was a very complicated.
You just have a lot of history.
Right.
Yeah.
But he got engaged recently, and I was super happy for him. I was super happy to see that. But part of me was like, oh, he's the last one of my exes to not be married.
And you're not married.
I'm not married. All of my exes are married before me. And that bugged me. And I wasn't prepared for that to bother me. I didn't know I was the kind of person that would ever bother. And for some reason, I was a little bit like, in that moment, I was like, oh man, they all like my lady exes, my gender non-binary exes, my dude exes, like across the board, they are married. Some of them are in open polyamorous relationships.
Yeah, we'll see how that works out.
They're crushing it. They honestly seem happier.
Good.
My like
it seems like a lot.
It seems like a lot to me. I would be fine with an open relationship. I'm fine with a monogamous relationship. I can kind of like the fact that my boyfriend is monogamous. I'm like, yeah, sure, fine.
Yeah. And he's great.
He's great. Yeah. He's the best roommate I've ever had.
Yeah.
We love Josh.
We love him.
He's the best roommate I've ever had. But like, you know, he's monogamous, and I don't have super strong feelings about it. So I'm like, yeah, take it or I could take it or leave it. I'm not here trying to like bone everybody.
I also think though, like your friends getting married or your exes getting married, I think the thing that could make you feel that way is like it's the passing of time. Where there are things that like your 10-year high school reunion and like when people get married and when people have babies and then your 20-year reunion or like different milestones and you're like, oh, this is the passing of time.
Yeah.
Like, this is what it starts to feel like as you get older, because when you're young, the passing of time doesn't like, you don't go, oh my God, kindergarten feels like it was yesterday. You know, like it doesn't matter the same way. And now it's like, oh, time is passing. Like people are creating like lives and legacies, and like it sounds like a way bigger deal than it is. Like most marriages end, but
yeah,
I think that's probably why you feel that way.
I think it's a little bit of it. Yeah. And I think it's also just like drudging up just old feelings for a second that, you know, you'd put away for a long time. And you're like, oh, I didn't realize there was still any like lingering, and not even necessarily like, oh, I want to be with them. It's just like those lingering aspects in yourself. It is interesting to me. I feel like the friends that I have that are, or the friends and the exes that I have that are in open polyamorous relationships have stronger marriages than the ones who aren't. But it's a smaller portion of people who are like, you have to be very confident with yourself and in your relationship to be like polyamorous. So maybe that's part of it. It's not necessarily the polyamory. And it's who they are.
Are the people that are polyamorous, do they have kids?
They don't have kids.
Yeah. See, I think like polyamory, there's probably very few people that do polyamory that have kids.
That's a good point. I mean, you don't have time.
Unless they had kids from a previous relationship, but I think you don't have time. I also think it's just like a completely different lifestyle, and the kind of people that are probably willing to do that don't have kids or don't want kids. And then people who have kids tend to have a more traditional like marriage or just like lifestyle where they move to the suburbs and do whatever and all that. So
it's probably hard to find, you know, like people who are into, or harder to find people who are into like polyamory in the suburbs and stuff. But I think also just like when you're raising kids, you don't have time to be going on dates.
No. Well, polyamory changes form in the suburbs. You just become swingers.
There you go.
It's not openly talked about, but there's plenty of things going on that are, you know. Do you think that any of your exes manscape? Because we're going to do a quick ad.
Amazing.
And I'm curious.
Some of my exes did manscape. Some of my exes did manscape. Some of my exes ladyscaped. A lot of my exes scaped not at all.
What do you prefer?
You know, I'm a big fan of whatever you feel most comfortable with.
I love that.
Because I've never been bothered like by just like pushing the hair to the side. Just give it a little part the C. I'm knocking the microphone, but I just give it a little parting of the C's. But I will say,
you've never gotten a pube stuck in your teeth.
Only my own. No, I'm kidding.
You're more flexible than I thought.
Ran out of floss.
Yeah. Oh, geez.
No, but you mean you love a good manscape. I realize I'm giving the opposite of a pitch. No, I love a good manscaping.
Yeah, I mean I think it's good. Like if you're freewheeling and hairy as a mofo, then you definitely need Manscaped, because that's what this podcast is brought to you by.
I need some
Manscaped. 100%. Manscaped is the below the waist grooming engineering tool for your family jewels, you guys. Like this is the real deal. I actually, you know, they sent me some stuff and I've been using it, and they recently launched the Ultimate Hygiene Bundle for the man in your life or woman. I mean, honestly, I know this is like a man thing, but I feel like women can use this like not just on their men, but on themselves and whatever.
Absolutely.
And so they came out with this thing called the Performance Package, and you can help them join 7 million men worldwide. Wow, 7 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer. So here, if you go on Manscaped and you use promo code Room for Rent, which will be on the screen, you get 20% off plus free shipping. Join 7 million men. As I've said it once, I'll say it again. 7 million men, 14 million balls. Okay, and that's important. Unless Lance Armstrong is considered in that group, in which case it's 6,999,999.
That math checks out.
That was a lot of numbers. My brain is broken now.
That math checks out. I got to tell you, every single one of my exes that's married now that manscapes has a strong relationship. Enduring marriage. Yeah.
If you want to be part of the 50% of people who don't get divorced, get Manscaped.
Manscaped.
They're probably going to kill me for saying that. No, I don't know.
It's the number one cause of divorce is not manscaping.
Is it?
Absolutely. Well, it shows a disrespect for your partner and their gag reflex.
It does kind of. I mean, I feel like we take it one step further. If you get waxed, you'll never have a divorce or anything. I don't know. I give off big divorce attorney energy. Like, I look like a divorce attorney who's going to fuck your soon-to-be ex-husband. That's me.
Absolutely.
Big stepmom energy. Like, I want to...
I feel like you're going to give me a big payout.
What do you mean?
In the divorce. You're going to get me a big payout in the divorce.
Yeah. Like, if your marriage is on the rocks, hit me up.
I'm going to get the prenup thrown out.
I'm like a divorce attorney that failed the bar, but is fucking husbands all over. You know, like, I'm a divorce attorney.
I'm a cause divorces attorney.
I'm just a whore. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not at all. But so in the package, you'll find the lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, the weed whacker, ear, nose, and hair trimmer, crop preserver ball deodorant, which smells really good. I've said, it brings back nostalgic thoughts of my dad, which not because I was in or around his balls, but the shaving cream that he used when I was a kid. Like if I went in the bathroom and he was shaving his face, that's what this crop thing smells like.
Is the title of the scent Maria's dad?
It should be.
There you go.
Manscaped. This is going to be huge. You do get some boxer briefs and a travel bag, which is like kind of masculine and neutral.
Nice.
So that's fun. Yeah. And
that's so much stuff.
Yeah. A lot of people are saying it's the greatest ball trimmer ever.
The greatest ball trimmer ever.
And I've used it on my dog who has no balls, but I trim where his balls used to be just to like make him feel like a man.
That's so handy.
He loves it. He spreads eagle. He loves it. He loves it. And he had huge balls. Before I had him fixed, he had huge balls, and I had a tile bathroom floor, and he would spread out, and he would rest his balls on the cold tile. And I was like, that's a man. My dog is a man.
You can take the balls away, but you can't take the fact that he is a man.
You can't. He's a man. So,
that's so funny.
Yeah, no, he's a great dog. But yeah, Manscaped, room for rent, promo code, free shipping, 20% off. We'd love to see it. Get yourself some. But we'll wrap this up. So tell me, like, do you have any, like, one last crazy story?
One last crazy story. So I'll
really blow me away with this one.
Okay. All right. Okay. So I'll hit you with two really quick stories. Two quick ones. So I lived for a while in North Hollywood with a bunch of comedians.
You've told me a little bit about this, I think.
So when we first moved, we moved out a week before we moved out. I was moving with Josh and 4 other comedians. Josh, my boyfriend, and 4 other comedians. Whew. We found out only half of us had the money we said we were going to have for the deposit.
Sounds about right.
It continued in that vein. We were supposed to get a house. And we were celebrating, and then it fell through. And luckily, I had a backup house, so we got that. Turns out, on the drive out here, we drove from Arkansas out to California. Wow. The house that we were originally going to move into burned down in the fires.
No.
I know. It was a wild time living with 4 other comedians. One of them moved back after like 2 months. He moved back to Arkansas. He left, didn't pay his rent, just pieced. We woke up one day, he was gone. Just gone.
Wow.
And then over the pandemic, we ended up moving out. And 2 of them didn't pay for the bathtub that they ruined and left all of their trash. They also pulled a like middle of the night, just like boom out, and like didn't take their trash, didn't get rid of their like broken furniture, and they were like, hey, you can throw out or you can sell all the stuff that we left. And we're like,
the trash,
the empty bottles of Coors Light and your broken IKEA desk. No, I can't sell this.
Oh my God.
And another one of the third of the roommates that wasn't me or Josh. He's fantastic. I still love him. Bear. He's out
Bear's
in Arkansas. He's crushing
Aww.
it. He's got a great podcast called Set with a Bet that I love. He's great. I still love him. I had such a great time. Like, we put on shows together in our backyard. He's a sweetheart. We put on shows together in our backyard, and it was so much fun. But yeah, it ended very poorly, and it's like
they were all men, right?
Yeah, they were all men, and that was
poorly.
a nightmare.
Yeah.
Living with all those men was a fucking nightmare. And like the two that like disappeared in the middle of the night, like they were trying to get out of paying like their last month's rent. They didn't pay, you know, what they owed after we moved out, and they were like, here's what you owe. Like Josh and I ended up paying for the shower that they ruined. But they were so messy, and I had to listen to them have sex in like their bunk beds, which there's nothing sadder than listening to a 30-year-old man have sex in a bunk bed.
No.
Oh, just breaks your heart.
No.
But
no.
we moved out. Now Josh and I have our own place with I have 4 cats. Like we have a great place. It is a lot of cats. He has 2, I have 2.
Oh
so
my God.
we're a mixed cat family.
Do they all sleep in the bed with you?
On and off.
Okay.
They all go through it. One of them doesn't ever sleep in the bed with us, really. The other 3, if it's cold, they'll come sleep with us.
I'm so allergic to cats. I don't think I could step foot in your
Oh,
house.
really?
Yeah.
You would probably die.
So never invite me over. Well, thanks, Kayla, so much for being on.
Excellent. I had one other story. Do I have time for the last story?
We have a little bit of a heart out, but
okay.
This is what we'll have you back on.
Okay.
How about that?
All right.
We're going to have you back on the pod. Thanks for being on. We love you. Where can people find you on social media?
You can find me on Twitter at Kaylawa.
Can you spell that?
Kaylawaa. Kaylawa. My name right now is Bordy Spice.
Okay.
You can find me on Instagram at Kayla_cats_and_comedy. So Kayla Cats and Comedy. Same on TikTok.
What about YouTube?
YouTube, boy howdy, if you look up Kayla Esmond, I'm sure I pop up. I don't know. I've got my YouTube's just like a dumping ground for like submission videos that I never really put anything up on. But you're welcome to follow me and watch my submission videos that get me rejected from festivals.
Follow her. Come see her do comedy. I'm sure she posts all of that info on her social channels. So check her out, especially if you're in LA. You can find us at Room for Rent Pod on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook. Oh my God, so many things. And then Maria Bruggere on YouTube and at Maria Bruggere on all social media, MariaBruggere. Thanks so much for tuning in. We also have a Patreon that has a couple fun things on there. If you want some exclusive content, Room for Rent Pod on Patreon. Check that out. Kayla, God, we're just kicking things now. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
We'll have you back.
I definitely want to come back because I didn't even get into the astrophysicist roommate.
Well, guys.
Or my ex's ex, you know.
Comment. Let us know you want her back. The more you comment, the sooner we'll have her on.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Bye.